Hey everybody, it's Brian with Retired at 40, and it's been way too long since I've done a Traeger video, so today I'm going to share one of my top 5 favorite things to do on the Traeger, and I'm also going to show you how to get fresh caught salmon for $6 a pound coming up. So ever since we discovered this salmon for $6 a pound, and it's a whole side of salmon, which is awesome, we've had, I'll call it, a slight obsession with this salmon. It's not fishy tasting. The way we like it is a brown sugar glaze on it, and it just turns out awesome every time, and it's super easy to make. So we need to start with a good brine. So I can't stress enough the importance of a good brine, especially with fish and certain other meats. And this brine just happens to be a really simple one, as most of them are. It's not overly salty. I've found that a lot of fish brines, the salt is almost overpowering in the recipe. So this one's so simple, it only needs 3 ingredients. You need 4 cups of water, you add 1/3 cup of salt, and 1 cup of brown sugar. And you're just going to mix it all together until all of the crystals of the sugar dissolve into the water. And your brine's ready to go. That's it. Let's get working on this fish. Salmon. And the brine is such an important part of the salmon because it keeps all of that juiciness of the salmon locked in while you're smoking it. That's one of the toughest things about grilling fish, is it just dries out. I think a lot of people shy away from fish on the grill because of that. So the brine is going to lock in that tenderness, and it's also going to give you a little kick of flavor. Now let's get going on our salmon. So I mentioned that a lot of people shy away from fish, and I think that's because of a couple reasons. I think a lot of people don't like to grill fish because it doesn't ever turn out very well on the grill for them, which we're going to solve that problem today. And I think the other reason is that they don't want to spend the amount of money on something like a salmon or a tuna because it's so expensive. They'd rather get a fillet or a steak, New York strip, something like that for that same cost. But we're going to solve that problem as well. I'm going to go ahead and cut this into sections while I'm talking, and I'm not cutting through the skin, I'm just cutting down to the skin, but I'm making this cut into individual sections. I like to do that because the brine gets inside, it just adds another edge to where the smoke can get into it. It adds more flavor because it gives another side where that flavor can get in. And then when you're done, it's just a lot easier to cut it into pieces for individual people. So ever since we discovered this fish for $6 to $7 a pound, there's been no turning back. And the place we get it from is Aldi Foods. And the price does fluctuate. You can see we paid $6.79 a pound, so that whole side of salmon was only $13.38. But fresh caught Atlantic salmon for $6 to $7 a pound is almost unheard of, I think. We always stock up. We buy 5 or 6 sides at a time just so we can have it. It doesn't seem like they always have it, and you do have to pay attention because a lot of times they'll have the farm fresh as opposed to the fresh caught, and there is a difference, trust me. So our salmon goes in something that it can be submerged in. We're going to pour our brine over the top, and you want to make sure that the fish is completely submerged. And if it's not submerged, just to adjust your ratios a little bit on that recipe I gave you, just to add just a little bit more to get it completely under the water. So our brine is good to go. I'm going to cover this up. We're going to set it aside for at least 3 to 4 hours. I tend to leave mine in for about 4 hours. Some people brine overnight. Like I said, I don't like the saltiness, and I think that a lot of brines are too salty as it is. I think 4 hours is plenty. It's always worked for me, so that's what I do. But I'll leave that up to you, how long you want to leave yours in the brine. Mine's going to be in for 4 hours, and then while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to get some maple syrup ready. Make sure that it's real maple syrup. 100% pure. This comes from Costco. We really like this, but there is definitely a big difference in maple syrup, so make sure it's real maple syrup. So save your log cabin and your Aunt Jemima for your pancakes. But I'll see you guys in 4 hours and we will get to grilling. So put a pretty good amount of maple syrup into a bowl, and then if you have one of these silicone fingered brushes like this, it'll come in handy. Well, it's been about 4 hours, so let's check on our salmon. And I think we are good to go. So we're gonna rinse the salmon off and then we're gonna paper towel everything so it's dry. All right, this is ready to go. I'm gonna go put the Traeger on smoke, and then we wanna keep it under 200 degrees during the whole cook. All right, we're ready to go on with our fish. Make sure you keep your maple syrup close by because we're gonna use that in about half an hour. I'm gonna get this probed up in a couple of spots so we know when we're all done. Now we're gonna go up to 180. So my grill goes from 180 to 225. If you can stay under 200, that's the best. If your grill has a 200, then use that. I use 180. So I'll see you in a half hour for that first application of maple syrup. All right, let's go ahead and check our temperature. It's been on for about half an hour now. Probe 1's at 100 degrees. Probe 2 is at 96. So now it's time for our first layer. We're just gonna cake this on here on this first layer, and then each layer after that can just be a little bit less. Make sure you get the sides and in between. We're good for another half hour. All right, let's see how we're doing. Probe 1 is at 112. Probe 2 is at 109. This has been on for about an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm gonna put another layer on here, go for another half hour. All right, we're right at the 2 hour mark, and I've been brushing this every half hour with maple syrup. Probe 1 is at 133, probe 2 is at 135, so we're getting really, really close. And we're looking for 145. We're getting real close on this. All right, we're good to go. All right, we are all done. How do you make sure that everything is done? On a salmon, everything is just gonna flake off and pull apart really easily. And it just looks perfect. And just in time, because it's time for dinner. As always, thanks for watching. In the meantime, this is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple. We'll catch you next week.